Reporting live on Mother's Day, this is the Children's Ministry of Crossroads Baptist Church in Girard, Kansas. We, of course, want to wish all you mothers out there the happiest of Mother's Days, and we hope you feel spoiled today and extra loved today, and thank you so much for all you do. Kids, please stay tuned. We're going to make a neat origami flower bookmark craft. It looks like this, and all you need is paper, scissors, and pens or markers will work great for that. Also, please keep watching for more challenges, games, and prizes in our Children's Ministry Facebook group. Here, Hunter is enjoying his Kansas City Chiefs socks that he won from Professor Brainstein's activity. So thanks so much for all of you that keep participating and learning God's Word through those. We appreciate it. Also in Bible news, Sarah, age 90, finally gave birth to a healthy baby boy. She named him Isaac, and it's so amazing to keep seeing how Genesis 18:14 continues to be true, that nothing is too hard for God. Now let's go ahead and create our origami flower bookmark for our mom. So if you want to grab some paper and some scissors and markers or pens, we'll get started now. Now we're going to make this bookmark for our mothers, and I have it set up so hopefully you can see the paper the best. But to make this bookmark, this origami flower bookmark, you just need to get a piece of paper, some scissors, and some markers or pens. Those will work as well. But usually paper is, 11 by 8.5, but we need a square sheet of paper. So to make a square sheet of paper, just fold it across like that. Make sure you get the ends straight. So fold it in half like that. And then we're just going to cut off this extra piece. So fold it like that, cut off this extra piece. And just white paper would work as well. So now you have this big triangle, and what we're going to do is fold it in half again. So fold it in half like that again. Again, crease it in half, but then we're going to open it back up. So you should have a big triangle like this, a square folded in half with a crease down the middle. Now you're going to take the top of just one of the pieces and fold it down to meet the middle. So fold it down to meet the middle like that. Now you're going to take each side and fold it in to meet the middle. So crease that in there, and then you can open that back up. Crease this in here to meet there, and then you can open that back up as well. Let me refold that just a little bit. Okay, so you should have it looking like this. Now we need to fold this up so that there's a crease along this line. So fold it right there. Now you want to get the crease right against that line. Fold it like that, and then we're going to just fold that over, and that's what we will tuck into this paper to hold it like a pocket for your bookmark. And the same side, we need to fold that and crease that against right there. And then we will also be able just to fold that right in there. And then you should have a little pocket like that, and that's what can go along the corner of the page. But now we can cut this like a flower petal. So I would suggest using a pencil. I have a pen with me right now, but just to draw the petals so you don't cut it and get it all crooked. So draw your petals. I'll go ahead and draw my petals how I want them. And then I'll cut those out, and then you can decorate it however you want with whatever message you want for your mom. So I've drawn those, and I'm going to go ahead and just cut those out. And you can pick whatever color, or if you just have white, you can color it whatever color you want it to be. All right, so here you have the bookmark. You can, get some markers. You can make the center of the flower. You can color that all in to make it, look like the center of the flower is all colored in. You can write, "I love you, happy Mother's Day." Put your name on it, and I'm sure your mom will love to keep this in her Bible or in any book that she's reading. I hope you enjoyed making it for your mom. For the lesson today, I want you to think about the question, what is a Christian mother? So go ahead and look to your brother or your mom or your dad and try to answer that question. Maybe you said a Christian mother is one that teaches you about Jesus, or one that reads her Bible, or one that prays. But today, let's see what God says in the Bible about what a Christian mother is. Let's go ahead and find our place in 2 Timothy. We're going to look at 2 Timothy today. 2 Timothy 1:5, and that is in the New Testament, pretty much near the end of the New Testament. But 2 Timothy 1:5 says, "When I call to remembrance the unfeigned faith that is in thee, which dwelt first in thy grandmother Lois and thy mother Eunice, and I am persuaded that in thee also." So here, this is the Apostle Paul writing a letter to Timothy, and Timothy was much younger than Paul, and he went with Paul on his missionary journeys, and Paul was a mentor to Timothy. And here, Paul is saying of Timothy, "When I call to remembrance the unfeigned faith that is in thee." So what is Paul saying that Timothy had? Well, it's saying here that he had unfeigned faith. Now, unfeigned, what in the world does that mean? Well, something that is feigned means it is fake or that it is pretend, it is not real. So unfeigned would mean that it is real. So here the Apostle Paul is saying that Timothy had unfeigned faith. Timothy had real faith. And not only did Timothy have real faith, but it was first in his grandmother Lois and his mother Eunice. So Timothy had this unfeigned faith, but Eunice had it, which is his mom and his grandma Lois. So we talked about what unfeigned means, but now what exactly is faith? Well, we've been talking a lot about Abraham lately, and in Hebrews 11:1, it talks about faith being the evidence of things not seen, the substance of things hoped for. And if you remember Abraham was asked just to pack up and move one day and not know where he was going, and he did it. That's faith. Abraham believed for 25 years that God's promise would come true, even though he didn't see any evidence. That's faith. Abraham took his son. Last week we learned how he took his only son Isaac up into the mountain and was ready to sacrifice him, still believing that God's promise would come true. That's faith. So just as Abraham had faith, we can have faith in God because we know that God makes no mistakes. God cannot lie. He is truth. And so we can have faith and believe in God. But since it's Mother's Day, I want to kind of veer off track a little bit and bring a lesson about mothers. And I would just like to talk about kind of my personal life and testimony, if that's okay. Because I also had a grandma and a mom that I feel showed this unfeigned faith. And so I just want to share a little bit with you. My grandma's name is Sarah, and actually this past Saturday, May the 9th, was her 90th birthday. And as far back as I can remember, my grandma Sarah, she always had a huge garden, and she had, peas and potatoes and green beans and tomatoes, all kinds of vegetables. So many that she would can them and freeze them. Her canned pickles, or her pickled pickles, were my favorite, and I would always go over the summer for one whole week and stay with her, and I would help her in the garden, and I would help her clean her house, and we would watch movies together, and I would read some of her books and just kind of have a fun week with Grandma. But my favorite part of spending the week at Grandma's was she would take me shopping. Now, how many of you like to go shopping with Grandma? And it's always fun to go shopping with Grandma because she'll spoil you and buy you some extra things that you really want. And I remember getting my first pair of Nike shoes with my grandma, and they were Nike basketball shoes, and I just thought they were so cool. But probably the one thing that I remember most about my grandma is every time we would get ready to say goodbye, she would give me a hug and tell me that she loved me. And she always says, to this day, she always says this. She says, be encouraged to live for Jesus. His way is the best way, and his way is the right way, and we're going to all be together in heaven someday. And even in my cards that I get from my grandma, birthday cards, Christmas cards, it always says the same thing. And so I'm so thankful to have had a grandma that shows this unfeigned faith. And my mom also, my mom's name is Lisa, and I feel like she has shown this unfeigned faith also. I remember moving to Ohio. Most of my life we lived in Kansas, but when I was in kindergarten and first grade, maybe you're in kindergarten or first grade, we moved up to Ohio for my dad's job. And maybe you know what it feels like to move and leave all your friends, but what I remember most about the move was my mom always saying how much she missed our church back in Kansas. It was such a good Bible teaching church, and she just missed that church so much. And we looked and looked and tried out several churches up in Ohio, but we never could find a good, strong Bible preaching church to go to. And even in that time when we were up in Ohio, I remember she helped to lead a Bible school, and they needed vines to decorate. And so she went out into the pastures and in our yard and pulled up a bunch of vines, and she got the worst poison ivy. Oh, maybe you've had poison ivy before and it just drives you nuts, but she had it all over and was miserable. But doing things for the church and for the Lord, that was the ways, or those were the things that she found worthy of her time. And I remember that about my mom. And when we eventually moved back home, we were able to go back to our church. It was Zini Baptist Church here in Kansas, and it's actually the church that I was saved in. I remember a Wednesday night being in church, and the pastor, Brother Gene Nelson, he was preaching a message about having your name in the book of life. And if your name is not in the book of life, you'll be cast into the lake of fire. And I just knew that I needed to get my name in that book of life. And I remember the invitation time at the end of the service, when they sing a song and pastor invites anybody to come and pray up front. That's the altar, and he invites them to come and pray. I knew I needed to go pray. And I knew God was talking to me and that I needed to go down there and pray. And I even remember the song. I don't remember how old I was, but I even remember the song that was playing. It was called "Let Jesus Come In to Your Heart." I actually have one of the hymnals. This was the hymnal that we had at that church, and the words to the song go like this. If you are tired of the load of your sin, let Jesus come into your heart. If you desire a new life to begin, let Jesus come into your heart. Just now, your doubtings give o'er. Just now, reject him no more. Just now, throw open the door. Let Jesus come into your heart. And I remember in the chorus where it just said, just now, reject him no more. I could not hold on to that pew any longer. I had to go down and I had to pray. And I remember I was weeping. I didn't really understand what was going on, but I knew that I just went down there by myself. Nobody even came and prayed with me, but I remember praying and asking my name to be written in the book of life. And I remember getting up and just feeling a peace that had happened. And I knew that I would go to heaven when I died. And I would have never even been in that church service on a Wednesday night if it hadn't have been for the unfeigned faith of my mom and my dad. My parents both were in church. If it hadn't been for them, and then where would they have been if it hadn't been for their parents and their moms? And so when I read the verse in 2 Timothy 1:5, I'm so thankful for my Christian heritage as well. It says, let's read it again, 2 Timothy 1:5. When I call to remembrance the unfeigned faith that is in thee, which dwelt first in thy grandmother Lois and thy mother Eunice, and I am persuaded that in thee also. So, can you have that unfeigned faith, that real faith? Well, yes, you can. And it, even if your parents don't, you can still have the unfeigned real faith. And it begins by inviting Jesus into your heart and life and asking him to save you. And that alone, that's our salvation. There's nothing we can do other than to ask Jesus into our heart for salvation. We don't earn it by our works. But then you can grow your faith and become a stronger Christian by, choosing to obey God's word and his commands. And that continues to increase and grow our faith. And that's how we can have the unfeigned real faith. But if you have parents, especially a mother, since it's Mother's Day, that shows this unfeigned faith, I would just encourage you to give her a hug, tell her you love her, and tell her thank you for teaching you about Jesus and for sharing Jesus with you. Thank you. I hope that's been a blessing to you, and I hope you have a happy Mother's Day together. Goodbye.